So today, give me your last name once so I don't slaughter it.
Wasniewski.
Wasniewski. That's awesome. I like the N in there.
Yeah.
Wasniewski. Today on the 54665, we're talking with Darrin Wasniewski, WEDC, another Renaissance person, deals specifically with Connect communities, Main Street communities throughout all of Wisconsin. Darrin, welcome to the program, and can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I got my start in community development in a neighborhood in Columbus, Ohio, German Village neighborhood. And I went down there specifically for historic preservation and realized that in saving old buildings, you created community. And that was the better goal, to create community. And so I've translated that into the Main Street world at a local level in Ohio and now at a statewide level here in Wisconsin.
Awesome. So in the WEDC world, it seems like there are many, many hats. And specifically, I always point to the Connect communities or the Main Street communities as being this wonderful resource for communities that are really trying to emerge or identify themselves. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do in the state of Wisconsin?
Yeah, I work specifically with our communities. I do program administration, so that's the boring part of my job, and contracts and all that other stuff. But I really get to work individually with the programs on organizational development as well as marketing and promotion.
Okay. Excellent. Nora?
So, Darrin, before your current role with the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, you owned a business with your wife in Orrville, Ohio. Can you tell us just a little bit about what that was like?
Yeah, I was finishing up graduate school and had worked in nonprofits all my life and never had any savings as a result of that. And so my wife and I were talking about what would life be like afterwards. And so I thought about going to corporate America and then quickly realized I probably wouldn't work well in corporate America. And one of the research projects I was doing at the time was looking at just businesses and how they fared in the recession. And we saw that while most businesses were down substantially and some just a little, the pet supply business was up 5% year over year, even in the depths of the recession. And that coincided with a time where we had a dog that had allergies, and we took him to the vet, and their response was, bring him in once a month for a steroid shot, and it'll be fine. And we said, well, no, that just addresses the itching. That doesn't get to the root cause of why he's itching. And so we did some exploration on our own. We realized that we could, within a reasonable distance, could buy all the products we wanted to try, but nobody really knew what they were selling. And so my wife and I talked about it, and she said, well, maybe we can look to open our own business. And so I took that as a cue. And in a complete manic moment, I stayed up all night one night and developed our business plan on sticky notes just on our dining room wall.
It's the best way to do it.
And it was out there, and I sent it past a friend of mine who was at a credit union and said, what do you think? And he's like, well, put it on paper.
Yeah.
I can't really share your dining room wall with my board, but put it on paper and we'll see what we can do. And that began the launch of Lola Chichamui's Natural Pet Market. They're named after our dogs at the time. We've added another one in since then, but we decided not to change the business name. But starting fresh, we looked at other places, what was going on. And one of the things we realized was there was a disconnect between an online presence or what they projected online and what you got in the store. And we really wanted to be focusing on our brand image, that if we were going to be a natural pet market, what does that mean from the minute somebody touches us online till they get in the front door? What's the experience of all the fixtures we have, the people that they meet? And, looking at location, I was a local Main Street director in Orrville. Many business people would probably say this is not the ideal location to open up a business of this type. But I really felt it was my obligation to open it there. And so we just wanted to make sure that we combated the location that wasn't necessarily ideal with a presence that could get people going. So as we were leading up to opening, we hit social media pretty hard. In just engaging people, letting people know this was coming, and building up a following that way. And it worked. I mean, from the get-go, the business didn't cost us any money out of the gate. it was revenue neutral from the get-go, and which was great. When I was working full-time, that could support our family, and the business was there, and it didn't drain any of our resources. It was a great experience for my wife and I to do that. It had some real trying moments, especially with a young family. We had 3 kids who were always at the store, and they got to know the ins and outs of business. I think, my kids now know more about ordering and inventory turn and all of that good stuff than many people realize in a lifetime.
Yeah, that's really important. It's really important. Actually, I have a kindergartner that started this year, and on the first day of school, his teacher asked all the students if he made any friends, or if they made any friends over the summer, and Silas replied with, "Yes. I have a business manager named Ryan and a pastry chef named Kelly." And we got a call home that day, and she was concerned, his teacher was concerned that Silas, maybe does he really have a business manager named Ryan? And as it turns out, he does. But I think it's important, we really look at the idea of a family run and owned business as it has to be integrated. You have to have the kids there around it, because there is a little bit of like a time suck that you are going to invest. And, they understand, at least my kids understand a little bit of the risk and like why you're there. What were some of the other risks? You said that, there were challenges to opening this in Orrville. Did you have anybody flat out tell you like, this is a horrible idea?
Nobody said it was a horrible idea.
Okay.
But they did say good luck.
Sure.
And, so we realized in trying to get the word out, social media was big in the beginning, but then we needed something else. We needed a different marketing arm, and we didn't have a huge marketing budget. And so partnering with pet welfare organizations became our marketing arm that we also set out from the beginning. We wanted to give back to those groups. And so we did special events that we did $5 nail trims. The proceeds would go to those places. That on one Saturday a month we had a self pet wash. Yes, people do pay money to come and wash their pet in your bathtub, especially if they don't have to bend over. And so the proceeds would go to those charities there. And so, the more money they could make was the promotion they did to draw people into our store, which would then give us exposure and awareness among the population. So that was huge for us.
Sure. You would go ahead.
Well, I think along with the challenges, I'm really interested in, what was your day like? Because for a while you were employed full time and your wife was running the store, and you said that the kids were also pretty involved when they were able to be at the store. So what was a typical day like for your family during this time?
One of the things I set up early on with my board to make them comfortable with this endeavor was that I wasn't going to be running the business while I was working for them, that I had to set up those clear delineations. So while it was a business in our downtown, it was quickly, if I was dropping off information, it just got dropped so my wife could see it, and there wasn't a lot of chit chat or, well, let me look at this thing while I'm here. Mm-hmm. My wife was there and opened up the store in the morning. We really looked at the hours and when we wanted to serve. We looked at the other businesses around us and realized that evening hours were important, and also realized that, if we're going to work in the evening, we only have a limited amount of time as a family. But it also meant we didn't have to be there at 8 o'clock in the morning, that those were days we could open up at noon and be able to service the evening customers. And so my wife would do the day shift when I got off from work. Then I would come over and do the evening shift in the store. And she would be home to take care of the kids when they got home from school and to make dinner. And then I would close things up and come join her after that. We were open 6 days a week. We were not open on Sundays. And it just for no other reason than the fact that was our day to shop for supplies for the store. Sure. it truly needed one day to be able to do that. Right. And so, all the kids, Sunday was supply shopping day, and sure, we schlepp them all around. And so everything was all store all the time. But, I really do appreciate the experience that it gave them. We had a couple part-time people. And from the very beginning, I had some great advice from one of our longstanding business owners. And he said, treat them well, even though, don't look at them, they're just part-time. That that they're your employees, they're your ambassadors, and get them involved. And so we worked really closely with all of our part-timers to let them understand the business. They knew where numbers were. I didn't try to hide anything. I encouraged them to take ideas. Is there a new product line you want to bring in? What does it cost? What can we do? How do we sell it? And let's look at the numbers after that. There were 2 points in time during our ownership that this really was an aha moment for me and how well this worked. One, my parents had offered to take us to Disney World for a week. So we had, a family-run retail business, and we're like, what do we do? And our part-timers said, we'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. And they did. They ran the store for a week plus without us having to deal with anything in Disney World, and allowed us time with our family. And then I had a family member pass away that required us to go on an extended trip to New Jersey. And they took care of absolutely everything, and we didn't have any concerns about that. And that just proved the value of getting everybody involved and what the benefits were for that.
That sounds awesome. I mean, to empower your staff to be the best that they could be. I mean, I think that it is like one of the unsung beauties of being a small business owner, is watching people emerge and develop and grow, and maybe completely eclipse the expectations that you had when you initially sat down and hired them. Right. I think that is a beautiful thing. I have a question for you. I think a lot of people, myself included, when you're going through the Post-it notes and you're creating a business plan, you have all the reasons why this moves forward. Did you come up with an exit strategy? Because you're not in Ohio anymore. What did the exit strategy look like? Because I think that's a really important thing that I would suggest, entrepreneurs look at. Like, how do I get out of this when it's time? How did you know it was time, number one? And number two, how did you devise that plan?
From the beginning, luckily in my life, I've had people speak into my life that, just give me advice. And it makes no sense when they say it there, but then later on something pops up and you're like, oh, this is it. And so I was at a conference once and I had an entrepreneur talk about the Winnebago dream. And that, every entrepreneur should have the Winnebago dream that, when they get to a point in their life, they sell everything off and they buy a Winnebago and they travel the world.
Amen.
And the time to be thinking about that is the time you're still planning the business, because wait until you're 3 years out is not going to make it happen. Mm-hmm. And so, from the beginning, the exit strategy really was about building it up to value. And we had looked to franchise out the idea. From the beginning, I looked at setting up systems in place that could be transferred to other places easily. And that was always our goal. As I hoped to build it up, there was always in the back of my mind the comfort of I was working full time. And that would, make it easy. I have that cushion there that things don't have to advance as far as possible, or as soon as possible. The challenge came in as my organization closed in 2013, and I lost my full-time job. And I was at a point where at first I wasn't worried, and I said, that's okay. We're going to open up a second location, and this is where it's going to roll out. And we pushed and almost 6 months going at it. And as we put it in front of investors, folks would say, I love it. Look at your numbers. You're a brand new business. You're 2 years in. You're making a little bit of money, but you're not losing money. This is awesome. Keep up the numbers for 5 years and we'll give you money. And I'm like, I don't have 5 years. I've got 5 months.
Right.
Like, how do we make this happen? When none of that came through, the decision had to be made. And I couldn't find full-time work elsewhere in Northeast Ohio. The decision had to be made that maybe we close the store and move. And my move here to Wisconsin happened very quickly. And, we thought about then, what does this mean for the store? And I had talked with a business broker, and they had said, well, it might be a little too soon to try to sell it. Mm-hmm. You're only 2 years into it and you don't have a whole lot that you're going to be sellable, but let's float it out there. And so we took everything we had, the numbers, and actually had a lot of interest. But unfortunately for everybody that had the interest, they didn't necessarily have the bankroll to roll it out. And so when they approached the banks for loans, they're like, this is a brand new business. It isn't going to work.
Sure.
In the end, the last deal fell through, and it was actually our lender that killed the deal.
Okay.
Because we couldn't come to terms on what that looked like for financing the exit, and that was crushing for us. It also was crushing for us financially.
Sure.
Through that, we lost our house in Ohio. It was just a big old mess. But luckily, we were 500 miles away and didn't have to deal with that.
Yeah.
So it really was a fresh start for us. But that also then leads into, that sticks with you. The sting of that sticks with you for a while. And I'd say that, one of the challenges that we had in being a husband and wife business was we kind of separated. We didn't talk a whole lot about what that was while it was going on, and especially afterwards. We were making assumptions on how the other was dealing with it and how they were processing it. And it truly was not being dealt with well. And it was a struggle for us as a couple afterwards, that I was laden with guilt. You have these stereotypical men things that you're supposed to take care of the family, and look where I led our family down. And my wife was like, how dare you think that? I went in willingly. And
Yeah.
it truly did cause some heated discussions at time. But I would say, in just processing all of that, it took almost a good 3 years afterwards before I felt confidence back in what I was doing and what I was thinking.
Yeah, I can completely identify with that. Ruthie and I run the cafe together, and it's not Ruthie's background at all. She's a registered nurse, and a fantastic nurse at that. So the decision to come on full time at the cafe and kind of push this thing forward with me, it was born out of necessity, I think. But there is that feeling for me specifically, like that panic feeling, that even though it's a successful business, it's still, you have to wake up every day with that weight on your chest a little bit. So where you sit now on the other end, kind of being reborn, the phoenix rising from the ashes, is there any advice that you would give to an entrepreneur or, a husband and wife entrepreneur who are looking into a business together? You've done it. You've run the gamut. What would you say?
I would definitely say keep the lines of communication open. Don't assume what the other is thinking. Even while we were going in the business, I don't understand how my wife stayed married with me. I was a little obnoxious. And I think part of that comes from having education. And, I had an MBA, and so there I thought I knew best, and often discounted what my wife thought, although she had a whole lot of wisdom in what she was saying. And so, for anybody, be humble, and be open and be communicative. If things start to go south, understand that you're there for each other and be there for each other. Don't go lay blame and point fingers. And even more so afterwards, I'd say, you get over it. Our financial situation after it happened, we're not in that anymore. There's ways to help you protect you, and you move on, and you rebuild, and it's not easy, but it's doable. You just have to persevere and be diligent about it and move forward.
Thanks. That's really awesome.
Yeah, I think so. I want to, even though this is a little bit out of order, I want to return to some of the things that you were doing for marketing and to get people into your shop. What are 2 or 3 things that you felt were the most effective and the lowest cost for getting people in to see what you were doing and really interact with your brand?
While we were going through this, again, remember I said my whole idea was to franchise out. And so we had teamed up with a business consultant, a retail business consultant, early on. And one of the things that stuck with me was the idea of you needed to have two minor and 1 major event every month in your business to draw people in. Don't expect putting an open sign out is going to draw people in. You got to give them a reason to come in. And so for us, our minor events were these collaborations with the local animal welfare groups. And then the major event was our Main Street group had a Third Thursday event. And so that was our time to collaborate with others in the downtown to draw people in. Also utilizing the resources that that are there, that these things don't have to cost a lot of money. From these discussions with the retail consultant, we developed a calendar that went out every month, and we worked with a graphic designer. We did not do it ourselves, so it looked nice and presentable. It was posted on our website. We handed it out with every purchase. It had any of our special events, any of the other special events going on in the town, any fancy, holidays or whatnot were on there. And, when you draw people in, also being able to do that with just getting them engaged. We had worked with one of our local credit unions, had a tabletop Plinko game. And, I just asked them if we could borrow it. And then other people saw it. And, we had all kinds of free samples from our vendors. And so, we just drop it on there. We'd have gift certificates. We'd have free samples. And you come in the door, you get one chip. You spend so much, you get another chip. And people just love that stuff and draw right in there. And I think that the last one I would say for marketing is we had set up a customer advisory board and early on. And as we identified our top 10 customers, we'd bring them in. We'd ask them just to, give us their opinions on it. We'd buy them pizza and beer. And, they were our evangelists out there. They talked about and we implemented, and that just goes so far in listening to the customer and what they want in your store. And you realize, especially as a small business owner, people are rooting for you. They really do want you to succeed. And
Right.
so if you, take off your I know best hat and say, what are my customers telling me? That's a great way to engage with them.
Yeah, absolutely. The power of relationship marketing. There's nothing like it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Anything you want to say, Nora?
I think just my final question for this episode is really, having had a business and having had some success and also some challenges, would you recommend this to anybody else out there that's thinking about starting their business?
Without reservation. I think, go in with your eyes open and realize it's not easy. And as I said, it's taken me 3 years to, for lack of a better term, get my mojo back. But already working on our next idea. And you just, once you get past that, we can do this, and yes, it could fail, but that's okay. We got to try it. I don't want to ever be at that point in time in my life where I say, boy, I wonder what could have happened if I just tried. It's just so much easier to try it and have an answer. Mm-hmm. And I know that's what, when one of the apologies I gave to my wife afterwards, and she says, no, that's fine. That's exactly, I much rather would have tried it than the both of us being in some retirement home and saying, I wonder what would have ever happened if we ever opened that store. She's like, now we know, and we can be, just happy with the end result. I know she still has people that were our customers that she remains in contact with today that have become friends. And, that's the power of the small business, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.